Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Naranjan Nota. Naranjan is a spiritual guide, mentor, and teacher who spent more than 15 years in the corporate and non-for-profit sectors as an employee and a consultant. She has spent more than 2 decades learning and reigniting her intuitive abilities, working with the unseen realms, and bringing them into a form for others to understand and process. Her mission is to invite others on a courageous journey to transform into their true selves as well. Welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Tanya. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
So it's no secret there's a lot going on in the external world right now, right? And so today you and I are going to dive into how to shift our lives and work from the inside out. And so you've had quite a journey yourself to get to this point of understanding that we must go within to shift what's going on in our external reality. So can you briefly share your story on how you discovered your unique abilities by going within yourself?
From a very young age, I'd recognized this other part of myself by going inwards. It was a different dialogue. It was a different conversation that I was having and a different awareness. But as many of us, we don't engage that because it's not really taught and welcome, so to speak, in our external environment. So I'd kind of put it on the back burner, but as I got older, my curiosity unraveled that further and further, simultaneously while I was in adulthood, going to school, going to college, and living that life. But my curiosity was unraveling that through self-taught education, other groups, and finding mentors and teachers. So going within and the intuitive space came as a progression, as I built my own confidence to listen to it, because then I recognized it was steering me in the right direction because it felt right from a much deeper level than we say felt right from a mind level. So I continue to follow that. And to this day, it's not steered me wrong.
That's amazing. And I think you hit a key term there, to trust, right? To trust that inner knowing, that inner voice that can be very soft sometimes. I know mine is just sometimes, there's times it's been very loud, like, hey, you're ignoring me.
Yes.
Look over here. And then there's times it's just this nice little subtle nudge. And I kind of glance, in that direction and start moving that way. And then boom, something amazing happens. And so when you started to recognize, oh, I've got this inner voice, I've got this inner intuitive knowing, how did your abilities start to present themselves? What was that like? And how old were you when you started to recognize that these things were happening?
I recognized them from a really early age, but trusting in them and giving them the full freedom so it can navigate my life is a whole different conversation.
Exactly.
Right?
A lot different in your adult life, right? Than in your child
Absolutely. Life. So it wasn't until much later, I would probably say maybe a good couple of decades, let's just put it that way, until I figured out, okay, this is telling me something I really need to lean into and trust. And it was for what I could say smaller risk tolerance decisions. Do I go into this store? Do I take that route? Do I have this conversation with that person? And they are smaller risk decisions that we need to make. So I leaned into it from that perspective. And then the more I gained confidence and trust, it allowed me to lean into it for the bigger decisions in my life.
Yeah,
That
and
was a journey.
it is a journey, and it's like you're fostering a relationship with that inner self, right? That
Yes.
inner being, soul self, higher self,
Yeah.
intuition, right? Whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. I think like you had mentioned, I, like you, as a younger child, I was really in tune with that inner voice, that inner knowing. But I
Yeah.
think as we go through our schooling and our lives, we start to lose touch with that. And so,
Yes.
as we get older, we start to realize that we've got to rebuild or foster that relationship again
For sure.
and build the confidence, like you said, and build the trust. And so you work with the unseen realms. What does that mean, and how do you connect in that way? Because I do as well, but I love to, hear from others and see how everyone else's unique abilities come to
Mm.
fruition in the physical, reality.
As I started unraveling my own gifts and really delving into different principles, different teachings, different methodologies that we all have, from the Eastern religion or philosophy aspect to some of the practices that are really have gained traction in the Western world. As I started unraveling that, it showed up with a knowing. I just know this is true. And the more I leaned into it and trusted it, the more I can now visually see. I can and hear as well. Sometimes I do get voices, and sometimes I do get a clear direction. But the visual piece is strong. But for me, it started as a knowing. It's just in the core of my being. I know this is true.
And when you
That's
say,
how it started for me.
yeah, and when you say visual, do you visually see out with your physical eyes, or do you see within your mind's eye, or both?
I see within my mind's eye.
Yes, that's how I am
Yeah.
too, and I'm beginning to strengthen that ability as
Yeah.
well. I know it's there, and I'm
Yeah.
learning to strengthen it. I've had some guests on the show where they can really see with their physical eyes, and
Mm,
I'm not at that point yet. I think I was when I was a child, and I may have
yes,
shut that down. But I'm
that's
just,
right.
I was just curious how
Yeah,
you guys.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how have how has understanding these unique abilities changed your life?
Trusting, you gain confidence when we trust into something and we follow a path and it gives us a response that we hadn't anticipated, which is better than what we thought with our own conscious mind. Then you're like, maybe I should trust that voice a little bit more often.
Exactly. And
So
I
it's
feel that way too.
gaining, exactly. So it's just gaining that confidence to lean into it and allowing it to navigate your life.
Yeah, it's that inner GPS system, right?
That's right. I like that analogy. Yes, very good. Yes,
It's guiding
absolutely.
me. And so I want to talk a little bit about doing the inner work, because when we talk about going within, a lot of it is, you know, turning our attention from the external and turning it into our internal world, which there's a whole lot going on in our internal world. At least I
That's
know
right.
there is in
Absolutely.
mine. And so
Yes.
let's talk about what is doing the inner work. You hear that a lot in the spiritual community. Do your work, do your inner work. What does that
Yeah.
mean to you? And let's kind of talk through this, because I know I've had a lot of people ask me, what does that mean?
My perspective of that is expanding your awareness in how you're moving through the world. So being more aware of the type of words you use, the thoughts that are being evoked in your mind, to the actual actions that you're taking. Because we can open up a magazine and we can go around the world in 3 times in a matter of 5 minutes. So that's the mind doing the overdrive, but we're physically not doing it. But even that, it has a sense of energy attached to it.
Mhm.
So being aware of what's coming into your field energetically, how you're engaging with it, and how then that is influencing the people around you, because there is an influence that happens. Everything is energy, right?
Yeah, because as within, so without, right? As above, so below. And so when we shift that energetic frequency within ourselves, it will ripple out to shift our external reality, or what we're actually projecting out into the world.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I like how you said, it's energy, because it is, when we're going within, it's so important to, look at the outside and say, okay, what are my routines? What are some of these belief systems that I have? What are these habits? What are these patterns? And then actually going within and asking yourself some questions and being brutally honest with yourself. Don't beat around the bush with it, which I think some of us want to do. And, just really saying, where did this belief system form? Where did this habit form? How far back does it go? Is it even mine? Right. Fine.
But even a step before that would be to recognize and identify that narrative that's happening, of whether you're looking at yourself in the mirror and criticizing how you look, or criticizing another person for what you're hearing on the news or a conversation that you may have had. Recognizing that narrative that's happening. Where is that dialogue really coming from? And recognizing it's coming from you. You're the one who's saying it in your mind. Whether you say it out loud or whether you say it in your mind, it has the same impact.
It does. And to know that that voice isn't your inner being saying that. There's a difference between that intuition voice and the ego voice, or however you want to categorize that. It's like you've got several different voices going on, and you had talked about that intuitive knowing, or that nudge. That's usually a very comforting feeling. It's very stabilizing, grounding, and you just have that feeling that this feels good. I'm going to follow that.
That's right.
So how do you explain that? Does that sound,
Yeah, you said it well. The one thing that I would add to that is it is a softer and a much more gentle voice when it comes from the true essence of you. Call it your soul, the divinity, the God part of you, whatever language you want to use, or title or identity you want to give it. But it's coming from a higher source that's only in the interest of your highest and greatest good. That will come from a much softer place, a place of comfort, as you said. Whereas the other ones may come in a little sharper, a little louder, a little heavier.
A little more repetitive, naggy, maybe, right? You've got that.
That's right.
And you're like, no, that's not my inner being. That's this other voice that is just kind of picking at me, And so at least that's how I know. I've had literally had conversations with my inner being and my ego in my head. I'm like, no, you be quiet. You take a step back. I know you're afraid. I know we've been through this before and something not so great happened, but that's not going to happen this time.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. It's like I've got these dual personalities going on inside of me, but I'm beginning to recognize that the more you foster the relationship with your intuition, your soul, your inner being, the more dominant it will become, and you'll be able to trust it more, and you'll be able to recognize when it's coming through. Has that been something that you've been able to work with as well?
Absolutely. It's building that muscle. And as we build a muscle, we gain the trust. And as we gain trust, we gain confidence in the decisions that we make. I mean, even going back to the day of maybe being a young adult, and you have to cook your first meal ever. You gain confidence in adding different ingredients together to make this beautiful dish. And the first time it's not so great. The second time it might be a little bit better. And the third time it might be, so you practice. It's the same thing with our internal dialogue and our own intuition. We have to practice it.
Absolutely. And so When it comes to doing the inner work, do you feel that it's important for people to do the inner work on themselves, or to reach out to others to help them? For me, I think it's a little bit of both. I know in the beginning, I didn't feel confident with that inner voice, so I was reaching out to others. But then once I started to learn that confidence, I realized it was time for me to go within. So what are your thoughts about
Yeah.
that? Because I think a lot of people will look outside of themselves, but I think it takes some time to get there. What are your thoughts around that?
I think it depends on the individual and their own comfort level. I've personally done it both ways. I started my journey very much in a community space, in learning more about it and feeling the confidence within it, and then pulled back to practice it, like go to the gym, pull back and practice it, and then sought out other communities to support me in extending and reaching higher other elements of my intuitive state. Because often, as we do get proficient in our own voice, we can often recognize there will be a narrative that is hiding other aspects of ourselves that we don't want to see.
Yes.
So having somebody else come in gives us a third party perspective that we don't see our own shadows to a certain degree.
Yes.
To have somebody come in is supportive.
It is. And I was having some back problems several years ago, and I was doing a lot of inner work to heal, what is this? Why am I having these physical problems? And I ended up going to a visceral manipulation therapist, and she immediately fixed it. And I said, how did you do that? I've been working on this for months. And she said, I acted as a fulcrum for you. And that hit me kind of hard, because I was like, wow, I needed to reach out to someone else to see something that I couldn't get to myself. And I like how you mentioned that, because I do EFT tapping with people, and they'll do a lot of work on themselves, and me too. I'll do the work, but then I'll reach out to another practitioner, and boom, we hit the nail on the head. And I'm like, how did I miss that? But you had brought up that sometimes we do. It's like we have a veil, sometimes, or maybe we're stuffing something back that we don't want to go to. Maybe there's a trauma there. Maybe we've compartmentalized something, and we can only get as deep as, our conscious and subconscious
mind
us to go. Yeah.
That's right.
That's an important piece there. Cause I think a lot of people, I'll meet people like, well, I can fix everything within me, which is true to an extent, but there are times when it's beneficial to reach out to others, and it can take you to a new level.
We don't see our own blind spots. We really don't. And even on a conscious level, they can be hiding, but also from the ego self perspective. The ego sometimes doesn't want us to see it, regardless of how intuitive and how aware and tuned in you are. The ego is still always in play. There's a component of it that still has fingers in the pie, if you will.
Yes. And it's stashing some things over here in the pie that you may not see. Like,
I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer of having a mentor or guide or somebody to support you through that process. If it works with all other realms, coaches, in the executive world, in the business world, in the academia world, this is no different.
I agree.
We need somebody to support us and guide us through different levels. There's always somebody 3, 4, 5, 10 steps ahead of us who can pave that path for us a little smoother.
Yeah, it's like this beautiful balance between being the student and the teacher, right? And just, there's times when we're helping others, but then there's times when we're learning too. And
absolutely.
And I love that. I'm in what I call monk mode right now. It's where I've really gone within. And I'm like, okay, now it's time to come out. It's time to come out a little bit. But I noticed these kind of ebbs and flows, with me.
Right.
And when I'm in that monk mode, it's like I'm really going within and I'm having a lot of information coming through. This is
Yeah.
where I've been writing a book and I've been doing,
Nice.
different things within myself, but there'll come a time when it's time to come out and converse with others again. And
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. And I think it's so important because when we do those ebbs and flows, because that's the natural part of life, when we come out of it, we get humbled all over again.
We do.
And I think that's so important. Well, not from a judgmental piece, but the humility in people are still on their journey, and everybody's going to be on the journey just as I am. So maybe deepening that element of compassion, deepening that element of love for yourself and others, and relishing in those present moments. So I find it very humbling when we reach out to others.
Yeah. And so I want to dive a little bit into the power of our words, because you had talked about that internal dialogue and, the power of our words and how they can create that internal or external dialogue, whether we're speaking to ourselves within or we're actually verbally speaking, whether it's about ourselves or about others externally. And so, how does what we say to ourselves and others actually impact our lives?
A number of ways. One, in this cluster of cells called the human body has an element of consciousness. So that internal narrative that's running, the body is listening. Always. So whether we're talking negative talk or unkind thoughts, to ourselves, the body will listen to it. And then when we ingrain that so much and our body hears all of that, it breaks down. Ailments happen, dis-ease happens, all of those components start showing up. But also from an auric field. So we all have this energetic auric field. It'll show up in there. So when we meet, you and I were to meet at a coffee shop, you would feel the energy that I am emitting. Positive, high frequency love, joy, laughter, or low frequency sadness, anxiety, depression. That sits in the energetic field. And when it sits in the energetic field, we get matched with it outside in the world that we live in, because that's one of the universal laws, law of attraction, which I think everybody has heard of, hopefully, because it matters. The thoughts that we project, internalize, sits in our field, and then gets matched externally. So that person will come up and we'll be like, oh, how did that person show up in my life? Because I might not be saying the words out loud, but internally, this cluster of energy cells is listening, and that's what's radiating out to the world. So it has way more power than we think.
We do. And so, that thought is a stem of a vibration. And so our thoughts are electric, our emotions are magnetic. And then when we broadcast, we speak, we actually amplify that out into the universe. And so I've actually been really consciously aware more of my words and how I use them and the frequency behind them and the vibration behind them more than I ever have been before. I mean, when I was younger, I would just yep, and then question, why am I attracting all of this into my life? And so, now I recognize not only is it my external words, but it's also my internal dialogue too, because that's also creating a frequency. It's creating a thought. And then the more we do it, we create momentum, right? And then that momentum will attract to us those people, those circumstances, those, factors that come into our life. And then we question, why do I keep having this type of relationship? Or why do I keep having this type of, situation in my workplace? And so I wanted to talk about that because the power of our words, whether they're being spoken or not, It really is
Yes,
making a difference in our external reality.
absolutely. Yeah. And when we break it down, every single thing is an energy.
Mhm.
And energy never dies. We transform it. So the space between you and I across the waters, there's a vibrational frequency, there's an energy between us. And we get to transform that. That's our power. So it's way more powerful than we give credit to. Just because we can't see it, it's even more powerful.
And we can feel it. And like you said, you know, I can hear it sometimes. I hear the
Yeah.
buzzing. I hear the
Yeah,
frequencies. I don't know if you tune into that
I
too.
do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, I'll even work with people now sometimes, and I can immediately, I see a wave in my mind's eye.
Yes.
And it's like, if
Yeah.
it's fast wave, I'm like, okay, they're at a high frequency, I can tell. Or if it's a slow, drawn out, okay, I said, we've got to clear some
Ah,
fear. We might need to clear some shame or some guilt.
right.
So it's kind of funny how now I'm starting to pick up on literally frequency waves. And
Nice.
this is new to me. This has been like a new transgression for me, but I like it
Beautiful.
because it's very literal.
Yes. Can't get much harder to understand that, right? When it's
A lot.
visually seen to you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the services that you provide for people, and a little bit about, you know, what unique abilities and gifts you use in your sessions.
I support individuals to really tap into that intuitive part of themselves, to heal from the root. And I do that by starting with individuals, starting with their soul. So I go right to the soul and let's unravel that and then permeate out to the physical, your lifetime, other lifetimes, lineage, ancestors, and clear all of that, which is what we're here to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. There's a reason why we're here, and that's to tidy up all the karmic experiences that we have had from the past, an opportunity to heal and release our ancestors, our lineage, but also vibrate and offer the healing, if you will, to Mother Earth, because she in herself is a vibrating consciousness, just
Absolutely.
as our body is a vibrating consciousness. So to be in tandem, to be in union with all of that as we open our intuition. That's the path and the journey that I have been directed to support individuals on at this moment. And I'm sure it will change, but at this moment, this is the work that I've been gifted. So
That's funny. I say that too. It's like, okay, today this is what I'm working on. And
that's
you know,
right.
you would have asked me a year ago, would I be crossing over people who
Yes,
passed? I would
that's
have said,
right.
oh, I guess not. But I just had a
Yeah.
client recently. She had lost nearly 20 people over the last year, and she
Wow.
was feeling this tremendous amount of grief. And so we were able to move through that. But what we recognized is a lot of that grief wasn't hers. You know, they
That's
were
right.
kind of attached. And once we
Yeah.
released that, it's like just this lightness. I could see it. And she reached out and
Mm,
said, I have so much more clarity. I feel
nice.
lighter. I feel happier. And so, you
Beautiful.
know, Naranjan, I'd love for you to talk about karma a little bit. I haven't really talked about that much on my shows, and I know that you work in
I
that
do.
arena, so to speak. So could you
Yeah.
share a little bit about what karma is and how do we work through that?
Karma will show up in your day-to-day life. Every single human being on this planet, be you and I, comes with the full-on baggage of our karmic experiences. If we have karma, because I have met a number of souls on this planet who don't,
Mhm.
who have come in very clean, even from another planetary system, so they're not as in tune. However, for myself, I've had many a lifetime, so I have the opportunity today, at this moment in this lifetime, to be able to clear any of the, I want to say, wrongful decisions that I had made in previous lifetimes. However, they would have felt like the right decision within that context.
Mhm.
I have the opportunity to heal and clear that aspect of experience from my soul at this moment of time. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest reasons. I'm a believer there's two reasons why we're here. That's one of the biggest reasons why we're here, is to clear ours from a soul level, but also to clear it from our lineage, our ancestors, and all those people who we call family, be it our DNA family or be it our soul family, because we know those people who we meet and we connect with, and we're like, Tanya, you could have been my sister from another lifetime.
And we're like, we probably were.
We probably were, exactly. So to clear any sharp edges that may have shown up in dialogue, in conversation, for that, because the thoughts, I'm going to go back to the thoughts that come into our conscious state are coming from the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, from my perspective, is a place where all these experiences of karmic lifetimes are housed. So we get to download this information when our soul is ready to heal and witness that experience so we can heal it. And then we work in union with Mother Earth and clear it all. Go ahead.
Clear her too. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I've been guided to do that, to do grid work is what I call it. I don't really know what it's called, but so I've got a few questions about karma. So I've had people say to me, because I don't have any children. I guess I chose in this lifetime to come here and not experience pregnancy and having children. It just was something that wasn't on my radar, during this lifetime. But I've had people tell me that children, when you choose to have children, it brings in more opportunities to clear karma, or it brings in more karma. What are your thoughts on that? And I don't really even know. I've just had people mention that to me before, that, oh, you may not have a lot of karma because you just decided not to have children. And I'm like, I don't really know what that means.
I don't know about that, because I'm a firm believer that children choose their parents as we come in, right? Not only for the life lessons for the parents, but also the lessons for the soul. So for instance, I know parents who have birthed a child who is very evolved. So the purpose of those parents is for them to nurture this child so it can be as bright as possible, because it's coming in with an awareness. It's come in with, these are the skills that I'm here to do, and the parents are already in tune with the energetic and the spiritual elements of what energy is. So I somewhat disagree with that statement of, just because we're not parents, because I'm not a parent, that I don't have karma to heal. Trust me, I had a lot of karma to heal. I've done a lot of work over the last couple of decades.
Me too. And
so I think that's a falsie. Yeah.
And I've heard that several times, and that's why I just wanted to throw that out there, because I'm like, I don't know what that means. But so is karma energy? Is that what it is? It's like, our emotions are energy in motion. Is karma energy that we're clearing? Yeah, absolutely.
Because everything is energy, right? It's all energy, and that's all we're doing is transforming the energy around it, but doing it from a very aware, conscious state. So when a feeling and emotion comes in of guilt, we're very aware of it because the experience just happened. And that gives us the opportunity to clear it for this lifetime and for all others. And then spread out, doing it on a global level and doing it on a conscious Mother Earth level. It just ripples out even further. So does that answer your question?
It does. I love that. I was recently working with someone, and we were clearing some abundance blocks, and I had one of their ancestors, like 7 times removed, very far back in their lineage, present themselves and apologize that they were the ones who started this karma or this program, or, whatever you want to categorize it as. And they came forward and said, I'm the one who started this, and thank you for clearing this. And it goes all the way back.
That's right.
And so
That's
it was
right.
really neat because the person was like, I don't even know that person. I'm like, I don't know that person either, but they're presenting themselves to take accountability for
Yeah.
being the one who actually, kind of planted that seed in their mind of lack, or I can't even remember specifically. I remember it was around prosperity and abundance, but that was the first time I'd actually had a generational person step in and say, hey, it's me. That was pretty interesting.
And that just amplifies my point of when we do these healings and we do these clearings for ourselves because we're stuck in a place or in a situation, it's crucial for us to do it for the past. But then once we do the past, it also gives us an opportunity to clear our future, whether we have children or not. But there's other people within our family who have children.
Or
I have
even our
lots of
future
nieces and
selves.
nephews. That's right. So it's clearing the pathway for everybody. So we're at this 0 point, if you will, that we get access to so much more. And it's not just linear me.
Yeah. And so, Naranjan, what is some advice that you can give to someone to teach them or to help them to learn how to go within themselves?
Open your awareness. So whether you go to work and you come home and this is your route, expand your awareness, expand your peripheral vision, if you will, a little bit wider. Slow down and take time to observe your own thoughts. And then the third thing I'm going to say is be kind to yourself. So that narrative, that negative narrative that's happening, be sweeter to yourself and put your hand on your heart and be grateful for the body that you have and all that it gives you so you can live this life, because that's cluster of energy that's listening to you all the time.
Absolutely. And, one thing that's helped me too is seeing myself and others when I see patterns externally taking place, sitting with myself, asking myself, why am I projecting this pattern? Why do I see this in my external reality, continuing on through whether it's relationships or financial aspects or whatever it may be? And then sitting with myself and really listening to what we talked about earlier, that inner voice whispering and saying, hey, look at this. And you're like, oh, like I had this happen yesterday. Actually, I was working with some financial aspects and I had an old job that came up. It was one of my first jobs that I had gotten out of college. And when I was married, I remember I took this job because it felt like I worked in corporate and not-for-profit for many years. And I had stepped out of a high paying software job into a not-for-profit job, which paid less. And I remember at the time, my ex-husband had made a comment, why would you do that? Why would you step down financially? But I knew deep down I was shifting paths. I was getting out of that corporate energy and I wanted to move more into not-for-profit. And obviously at the time, they just weren't paying the same salaries. And for me, it was a good decision. It was something that I knew I was following my inner guidance on, but my external, reality or the people around me were actually kind of questioning me. Why would you do that? And ever since I made that pivot, I had stayed in nonprofit for 15, 20 years after that. And I loved it. I got so much reward out of it. But that was a seed that was planted in me all the way back from that time, from him just making that comment that you're not worthy to receive that money, or you're not worthy to enough to have, to lower your salary, whatever it was. But I hadn't even thought of that job. I hadn't even thought about that comment until I sat with myself and was like, whoa, that's where that seed was planted. And I could feel it remove because I got goosebumps and I got a little teary eyed. And it was like, I just shifted that pattern. Like I could feel that release.
But it came into your awareness. So what add on, if I may, is your drive to go into the not-for-profit was driven from an aspect of yourself that had been a for-profit. So it's almost like you are undoing your karmic experiences from previous lifetimes by being in a place to undo all the negative that you might have installed.
Yeah. And it was, it was that choice of follow your heart or follow the money. And then now I'm at a place, I'm following my heart and the money because I want to be able to align them, because we are divine beings.
Absolutely.
And we deserve that. And we are worthy, right? Of that.
Exactly.
We can have it all. We can have whatever we desire, whatever we imagine.
That's right.
Right. And it's freeing ourselves from those karmic bonds, those ties, those energetic cords that we hold ourselves, those belief systems, those programs, and being able to free ourselves. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
We're powerful, girl. We are powerful.
You bet. You bet we are. Absolutely. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about where people can connect with you. How can they contact you?
They can contact me by going to brightshininglight.com. The socials are all there, but I'd invite them to book a free consult, and we can have a conversation of whether we're a good fit, but also to sign up for a free gratitude journal. I've done a daily gratitude journal that they're willing to practice and engage in their life. And then if they choose fit, they can buy the 12-month version too, the book. But brightshininglight.com is the site that I'd love for people to entertain.
That's great.
Thank you.
And so, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. Is there anything that you'd like to share that maybe we didn't cover today that you think would be of value to the listeners or watchers?
I would say, listen to your own heart. Create some space for stillness. And it doesn't mean being the yogic, lotus position. It could be just going for a walk and leaving your tech at home. It could be just sitting in a chair and just creating space for yourself, because you're worthy of that. So honor yourself for it. And just allow that dialogue of that whisper to unfold, and listen to that is my invitation.
It is. Well, thank you so much. I love your energy. I feel very calm. I feel very at peace. And
Thank you.
I can really feel that coming through in the show today. And so I just appreciate your time and for you just coming on and sharing all your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tanya.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.